So this is the Florida DrupalCamp website. Florida DrupalCamp is coming up February 23rd, 2024, so I hope to see you there. And we're going to convert the session teaser component to use single directory components. So the session teaser component is this details element that you can see right here on last year's schedule. Has title, it opens and closes, it has the contextual links right there. So the first thing we're going to do, and you should be familiar with this step right here, is we're just going to disable CSS and JavaScript aggregation, of course. The second thing we're going to do, and this is new to Drupal 10.1, is we are going to turn on Twig development mode through the UI. Now you can still do this through settings.php or in your development.services.yaml. So if we look at this right now, you can see where it's currently coming from right here. It's coming from the no-session-teaser.html.twig. And yeah, so we're going to make this a single directory component. So the first thing that we're going to do in Drupal 10.1, of course, we have to install the single directory components module. That's under the core experimental category there, and you just install it just like you'd expect. And once we do that, we're going to install the Drupal Core Dev Composer package. And what this does is this helps SDC output really, really useful error messages when we're defining the schemas. It's not necessary, but we recommend it. So this is the no-session-teaser.html.twig right here. Let's open that up. But the first thing we're going to do right here is we're going to create a folder called components. All single directory components will live in here. Under here, we're going to create a component for our single directory component called details, because that's what we're calling it. We're going to create a file called details.component.yaml, and then another one called details.twig. And for the YAML file, we're going to go to the documentation, and we're going to copy our annotated example right here. We're going to paste that into the YAML right here, and we're going to start deleting stuff just so we have a good starting point. Once again, we're calling this thing details. We're not doing any replacement. We are going to define the schema, so we're leaving props. We're not going to have anything required right now, and we're just going to leave like some placeholders here for the props or the variables. And we're not doing any library overrides here. Next, we're going to move in the CSS, and we're going to move in the Sass files. And we're going to rename those. We're going to rename them to details.css and details.scss. And of course, we got to update the Sass to import the variables from the correct place. And so yeah, this is our starting point right here. We're going to get in here, we're going to start modifying this and building our schema. So I guess first thing we need to do is copy the HTML and markup into the details.twig from the no-session-teaser. And let's put everything kind of side by side right now. And let's start building our schema. So the first thing we have is our attributes. We don't quite know what the attributes is yet, so we're going to figure that out a little bit later. I'll show you how. We have the classes, which we know is an array. What else do we have here? We have label. Label's a string. That's basically the title right there. We have two booleans, is non-session, and we have another one called is training. And then after that, what do we have here? We have content. We're bringing this in as a big object because it's an associative array. Now you can split this up if you'd like. The URL is a string. And then the title suffix is an array. Title suffix is what gives you those beautiful contextual links if you don't know. So we have that right there. And now we're going to do our twig embed in the no-session-teaser.html.twig. So twig, the format of the twig embed is the theme or module where the component resides, and then the name of the component. So we're going to pass in these variables or props or whatever you want to call them. And then we're going to also do a twig block in here. A twig block is the same thing as a slot. So let's set up our twig block right here. So we're going to call this block meta. And then we're going to create another block. But I guess first we have to actually put the placeholder for the block into details.twig. And then we're going to create another block, and this other block is going to be called description because it contains the description. You don't have to create these. I didn't have to create these blocks, but I thought it would be prudent because other data might go in there from something else. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to clean up these set tags up here just by kind of putting this logic directly within the embed. And now that's looking pretty good right here. So let's clear the cache via drush, and let's take a look to see if it works. And of course it's not working, but we get a really, really nice error message right here. It says string value found, but a Boolean or object is required right here. And that's for the isNonSession, but it's also for the isTraining. So what that means right there is it's passing a string, not a Boolean. So we're going to add these twig ternary operators right here to force it to pass a Boolean. And let's see if it works right now. Yay, it's working. Yeah, you can expand, you can see it, you can see that these contextual links are working on the right. But we still have to do attributes, but before we do that, we forgot to put in our slots right here. So let's update the schema with our slots and make sure we get the indentation proper. So yeah, how do we figure out what the attribute is right here? Well, we're going to use the twig dump function. This is basic with Drupal 9.5 and later. This is basically a wrapper for Symfony var dumper. So we're going to dump the attributes right here. So let's see what we got right here. So you can see right there it says Drupal core template attribute. We're going to copy that, and that's what we're going to put in there. And I should be clearing cache after modifying this YAML file, but I forgot to right here. So you're going to have to just trust me that it would work. And it does work, of course. You can see that everything's kind of looking really good right here. We're going to use the only keyword in here to make sure that no additional variables or context gets passed in, and make sure it still works. And it does. Everything's looking pretty good right here, but it's not quite right there. You can see the component is still reaching outside of the component to pull in that SVG file right here. So let's integrate this SVG file. I'm going to create a directory in there, and then I'm going to copy this SVG file in there as soon as I can find it here. There it is. All right. So how do we reference like the current place? Like, how do we do that? So we're going to use the dump function again right here. Right now we're just going to use dump without passing any variables or any parameters. And you can see at the bottom up here we have this component metadata array. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put this in here. And what I'm kind of screwing up right here. I forgot to look under there. I needed to do something else. But in the meantime, I'm converting this to use the include function, which I didn't really need to do, but I'm doing because it's best practice. And I screw a couple things up right here. I don't put an end parentheses on here, so I'm going to try to troubleshoot that for a second here. Uh-oh, no end parentheses. Let's figure this one out. And then also, I realized that, all right, I don't know what I need to, I just have component metadata. I don't know what else I need to do. So I dump component metadata, and I see it. You see that there's a path key at the top right there. That's what we want. That's the path to the actual component right there. So we want component metadata.path. And let's try out one more time right here. Still failing, and this time because I typed the directory wrong. So let's fix that right here. Is it going to work now? Yes, it finally works. All right. You can see this beautiful little arrow right there that we were kind of wrestling with. So there's one more thing that we need to do. Within our CSS, we're also reaching out for another image. So let's kind of copy that pdf.svg in here, update the CSS. Now, we'd normally be updating the Sass, but I don't have my gulp file updated yet and all that type of stuff. But yeah. So you can see that this is working right here. So this is looking pretty good right here. So a couple things we need to do right here. Let's set up our requireds, you know, our required parameter or variables or props or whatever we're calling them. So we have that set up right here. And then we can also delete this old library that we're not using anymore for the session teaser. So yay, we get rid of that. And let's take a look at it. So if we look at it in DevTools now, you can see that it says component start, and it shows the component right there. And it gives us a little emoji, and the emoji is random right here. And the emoji is really handy because you might have nested components, and it gives you that quick visual overview. So this is the details.component.yaml that we ended up with. And it's really nice because you can see exactly what data your component is expecting. And this is like super, super nice right here. And then switching over to the node-session-teaser.html.twig. And this is really nice because it just shows you that, hey, this is how we're passing the data to our component. And then looking at the details.twig, now we just have markup and everything's like pretty clean right here. And this is awesome, you know? So yeah, that's it. Ta-da.